Okay, let's take the example of grade system in your exams. Suppose because of increase in competition among student community to score good marks in board exams and increased instances of inability to cope with the competition, one fine day, the government of India decides to introduce a new system which is based on socialism idea, according to which no student will fail in the exams. All the students will be awarded the average marks of what everyone will score. This is to reduce the acidic competitive spirits of the students and to bring equality and social good in the classroom. In other words, government officials insisted that socialism will work and that no one would be poor in terms of scoring marks, and no one would be rich in terms of scoring marks, a great equalizer. All grades would be averaged and everyone would receive the same grade, so no one would fail and no one would receive an A. Say for example, there are 10 students in your class and everyone scores below mentioned scores. Student 1, 1, student 2, 2, student 3, 3. Likewise, when it comes to more number of students, for example, student 10, 10. The government says that each student will get the average. Example, 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 divided by 10 is equal to 5.5. Do you think this policy will work? Will it incentivize your friends to work hard, or will it result in lowering of the work intensity?
Well, I'm not sure. However, at the outset, the idea looks to be great.
Okay, let us do a 10 marks test on history with this socialist approach in your class. If the average of class is between 9 and 10, everyone will get A. 8 and 9, everyone will get B. 7 and 8, everyone will get C. 6 and 7, everyone will get D. 5 and 6, everyone will get E. 4 and 5, everyone will get F. After the first test, the grades were averaged and everyone got a B. The students who studied hard were upset, and the students who studied little were happy. But as the second test got rolled around, it was observed that the students who studied less earlier studied even less this time, and the ones who studied hard earlier decided they wanted a free ride too, so they studied little. The second test average was a D. No one was happy because the average grade they got was much lower than earlier. When the third test rolled around, the average was an F. The scores never increased as bickering, blame, and name-calling all resulted in hard feelings, as no one would study any longer for the benefit of anyone else. All failed to their great surprise, and the grandfather told them that socialism would also ultimately fail, because under capitalism, when the reward is great, the effort to succeed is great. But when the government levels the playing field and takes more of reward away, no one will try to want to succeed as much as before. So, broadly, there are two ways of managing the economy for efficient allocation of resources, and they are called capitalism and socialism.
Okay, Is there any more dimension to these thoughts? And if yes, can you please summarize the differences between them?
Sure, the main difference between capitalism and socialism is the extent of government intervention in the economy. There are also different aims of the economic systems. Let us summarize them. Let us start with equity. Capitalism is unconcerned about equity. It is argued that inequality is essential to encourage innovation and economic development. In today's world of freedom and fairness, the notion of everyone being completely equal, even if this means taking from the rich and giving to the poor, seems really impractical. It is dependent on a type of human nature that is hard to come by. For this to work, very little greed and jealousy can exist, and people must have a general feeling of charity and a willingness to work their hardest for the good of everyone. These are obviously not common traits. Socialism is concerned with redistributing resources from the rich to the poor. This is to ensure everyone has both equal opportunities and equal outcomes. Ownership under capitalism. The means of production are owned by private businesses, which in turn are owned by private individuals. Under capitalism, property is concentrated into the hands of relatively few well-off people, leaving the many with nothing and at the mercy of the rich for work, charity, etc. This leads to gross inequality, exploitation, and misery. Nor is it economically efficient, as the rich have so much already they have no incentive to use their land productively. Under socialism, the state will own and control the main means of production. Socialism seeks to redistribute wealth and to ensure that the means of production are at the service of the whole of society, so that all can benefit and none will go without. Competition. Under capitalism, competition is very high, since here individuals are free to pursue their self-interest and hard work is rewarded by more and more wealth. The incentive to compete and become rich and famous is very high. Under socialism, low, since there is no extra reward attached for hard work, and self-interest fulfillment is determined by government. Incentive to compete for more among individuals is very less, since if they work hard and earn more wealth, the government will take their extra wealth by increasing tax rates to redistribute it to the poor. It is false to say that capitalism secures competition automatically. As everyone knows, monopolies are often formed under capitalist systems. Capitalist monopolies are pernicious. They mean that individuals profit obscenely as they can charge exorbitant costs, since citizens cannot obtain services anywhere else. On the other hand, socialist monopolies are benign since the state has the interests of citizens at heart, rather than the enrichment of a particular person. Efficiency. Under capitalism, it is argued that the profit incentive encourages firms to be more efficient, cut costs, and innovate new products that people want. In a capitalist system, economies are diverse enough that when problems happen in one sector, others are often insulated by their differences. In this system, labor is highly accountable and has very little space for being unproductive. Under socialism, it is argued that state ownership often leads to inefficiency because workers and managers lack any incentive to cut costs and do something new. In a socialist system where everything is centrally controlled and diversity is non-existent, when government gets things wrong, everyone suffers. Ultimately, socialist systems are so inefficient and corrupt that labor has to be forced for the state to continue functioning. Unemployment. Under capitalism, economies in capitalist systems are essentially unplanned. So, they often crash, producing depressions that damage the lives of millions. In capitalist economic systems, the state doesn't directly provide jobs. Therefore, in times of recession, unemployment in capitalist economic systems can rise to very high levels. Under socialism, socialist economies are planned, which means that problems can be foreseen and prevented. Employment is often directed by the state. Therefore, the state can provide full employment even if workers are not doing anything particularly essential. Price controls. Under capitalism, prices are determined by market forces. Firms with monopoly power may be able to exploit their position and charge much higher prices. On the other hand, firms operating in perfectly competitive market cannot influence price at all. Under socialism, in a state-managed economy, prices are usually set by the government. This can lead to market distortions, that is, shortages, creation of black market, and surpluses.